uh, kaushalam that is required can stress us out, because you will say, but I want to know, I will be best mother, I will be best partner, I will do best karma. Well, there is no best karma, there is no best relationship. The vision of the Veda is that this is a spiritual journey, and while you go through the different hoops of artha, dharma, kama, all of it is preparing you. Karma Yoga disposition is preparing you so that you command relative peace, relative happiness, relative tushtihi, satisfaction, so that you are able to see the absolute that you are. And therefore your connection with Bhagwan is also very important. So not only your responsibilities towards your family, but we are all connected to 5 other sets of relationships. Okay, so these are the relations you probably didn't know you have. Oh my god, like which skeletons are going to tumble out of the closet? No skeletons. First, of course, are manushyaha. So pancha mahayajna, that five-fold sacred offering to these 5 sets of relationships where your karma is very much involved. Manushya Yajnaha, the people in your life, especially people, family of course you will anyway do, which is a part of your duty, but this is one step more. Because you can say, no, I do everything for my partner, day and night I am doing. That is not Manushya Yajna, okay? That is obsession. You please open your eyes and see there are lots of other people you are related to. Other people who are in need, who are in distress, who might be atithis, who don't come with announcing a particular atithi time. You're offering to them, recognizing that I am connected to people around me. This COVID situation has brought about this understanding in a very nice way, that what happens in one corner of China can affect the entire world. Drawing this lesson to us about interconnectedness. Okay, we cannot escape it in a good way or a bad way. Okay, but we are interconnected, and that's the truth of the matter. So the people I'm connected to, the farmer, the carpenter, the service providers, okay, the courier, the delivery person, so many people in the chain of making life comfortable for me, I am connected to all of them. And so in terms of samanya dharma, I do what I can for them. Of course, there are some people who will convert the samanya dharma into a vishesha dharma, a special dharma, and they will get involved with different kinds of causes so that they can reach out and help other people. It could be the elderly, it could be disabled, etc. etc. Okay, so manushya yajnaha, I recognize I am connected to people around me, and I do what I can as my offering to this grand yajna that is ongoing, the Bhagwan's yajna. Then who else am I connected to? Bhutaha yajna. So bhuta, in Hindi we will say, hey, bhoot is not ghost. I mean, bhoot is ghost in Hindi, but in Sanskrit, bhutaha are beings, okay, all beings. So plants, animals, the trees, everything, that we are a part of a sacred ecosystem, and I consume the least and contribute the maximum. For a person living in a city, I was reading the statistics, 135 liters of water is used for that person. Okay, so from bathing to going to the toilet to washing, of course the washing machine and dishwasher and whatever else is there, but still the kind of food that the person consumes, so the water required in the washing of utensils, and even in the packaging industry, all of it. Imagine 135 liters of water per person. Okay, so the Pancha Mahabhuta, oh, your space and water and air, fire, Prithvi, so all this, they are not, they appear inert, but there are devatas. Okay, now here of course Bhuta Yajna, we are recognizing that we have a responsibility towards the ecosystem. We are already a part of the ecosystem, but we think we can lord over, which will of course is will lead to our doom. So I do what I can. Of course, there are some people who will go overboard and only love dogs and pat human beings. Okay, so it's good, we need animal activists, but no partiality. Okay, a dog requires protection as much as a cow does. So Bhuta Yajna, that I do what I can because I am sensitive. I cannot live in this culture and not be sensitive because I am connected to all of them. Third, Pitra Yajna, my relationship with my ancestors, starting with my parents of course, but my Pitras, my the ancestors, at least 3 generations, 7 generations, and we have this very beautiful ritual Shraddha ceremony, very important to be done. Why? Because it is karma to be done for the punya of that person. No, but that person died 3 generations ago, may have been reborn, it doesn't matter. You contribute to that person's punya. So for that person it will be like sukha, it will be an experience of some comfort. So acknowledging the role that our Pitras have played in our lives. There are so many family traditions, lot of families, they have this Kula Devata or Kula Devi must be worshipped. You ask people, who is your Kula Devata? What is that? Okay, your family deity, somebody, just check back with your grandparents or aunt, uncle, so on. They will know who was being worshipped in the family. Very important. Those blessings have come down, and it's quite likely somebody would have taken a sankalpa that our family will worship this particular Deva or Devata, Devi. And then of course our fellow modern contemporary guy does not have the time to even light a lamp in the house. So forget about any following in Kula Devata tradition. But anyway, the point is that we are here partly because of our ancestors and the role that our parents have played, and so we don't have to wait for them to die to talk about their glories, but to treat them well. It's unfortunate that we've had to bring this bill, maybe it's already a law now, about treatment of elderly. One wouldn't have thought that this culture required that, but as we see, things are changing. So much respect given to the elderly, also because the elderly or our parents, grandparents, they demanded that kind of respect, or they commanded that kind of respect because of their achara, their behavior. A lot of them were very, very dharmika. But in any case, we owe them. It is a rinam. Okay. Somehow, this word debt, 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 is not a great translation for rinam, but it's sort of okay. But we owe all these sets, and therefore karma is to be done. So we have looked at Manushya Yajna, Bhuta Yajna, Pitra Yajna, then Rishi Yajna. Okay, Rishi Yajna, also known as Brahma Yajna. So where we acknowledge the contribution, any kind of knowledge. Okay, you of course the Veda, which was revealed to the rishis, and they did not patent it, copyright it, or say only I and my family are going to enjoy the mantras that we have been blessed with. They systematically passed it on without any agenda, okay? And in lot of places it's not like, oh please add my name, okay, my name shall live forever. No, nothing of that sort. That, you know, when you're a jnani, you give because you are so big that you can give and give and give because you give out of fullness. And rishis were like that. So they gave, they shared, and to this day, you know, in this ancient, we call it ancient, but it is a living civilization where mantras are still chanted. If you look at Egypt and few other civilizations, unfortunately we don't know, great civilizations but destroyed because of missionary religions. Whereas here also, you know, we are at a great threat. And so when it comes to Rishi Yajna, we have a very deep responsibility in the form of our karma to keep this going. Why? Because we are recipients of it. We are recipients of this knowledge, and I'm not only talking about the Veda. So Veda, chanting, then Arthashastra, then Gandharva Veda, Vyakaranam, grammar, then Jyotisham, astrology, so much is there. The Vedas are there, Vedangas are there, Upavedas are there, Puranas are there, Itihasa is there, and then Prakarana Granthas, so many things are there, all talking about the sacredness and the divinity of all forms. At the same time, specialized bodies of knowledge which are so deep and so sophisticated that a lot of it has been lost because people did not do Rishi Yajna. Rishi Yajna doesn't mean that, oh, on Guru Purnima I will do one Aarti to Bhagavan Veda Vyasa and feel very happy. That is very passive Rishi Yajna. Okay, it's a nice thing, we all do it and we enjoy it, and you know, it's a very beautiful ritual. But you have to actualize your responsibility into your actions, because if so much we have received from the rishis, then what is my contribution? What am I doing? And you know, Yatha Shakti, we are not saying you know, quit your job and do Rishi Yajna, but Yatha Shakti, Yatha Mati, whatever you can do, you please do. So Rishi Yajna to be done, some, you know, effort to perpetuate knowledge. But that doesn't mean that, oh, I read 10 books, then I will become a guru. No, you have no right to be a guru unless your guru thinks you have the right to speak. Okay, so I'm telling you about the framework of the tradition. Then of course, Devata Yajna, the fifth set of beings that we are all related to. They keep on doing their duty. Okay, they're not saying, you know, Vayu Devata does not say, oh my God, I am fed up of moving, enough is enough, I want to rest. No, Vayu Devata ensures Vayu is moving all the time. And Agni Devata, okay, because you know, our Vedic culture, so Agni Devata, best courier service. So you offer anything to Agni, you know, as a part of the ritual, Homa, Yajna, then Agni will take it to the respective Devata. Each and every process and phenomenon that we experience, there are Devatas, deities responsible. So it's a little bit like having heads of departments, but one being. So just like we have the heart and the liver and the kidney, each of them having different functions, but each of it as a part of one being, different Devatas, but all one Bhagavan, and each of them performing different functions. So every moment we are being blessed by the devatas. In terms of Vayu Devata, ensuring that we keep breathing. Okay, it's so beautifully designed, it's all involuntary, right? Otherwise people will say, oh, I'm so busy, I don't have time to breathe. Well, thankfully this is not exactly a karma. Okay, it will happen because of blessing. Then of course water does not charge us, the municipality charges us, but water devata, okay, Varuna devata does not charge us. Okay, I give you a bill from the time you've been born, this is what you need to pay. None of it. So parasparam bhavayantaha, that we propitiate the devatas and then they take care of us. We are sustained because of their blessings. Oh, but I don't pray. But still you are blessed. So it's not like you did Surya Namaskar today being Sunday. I am doing Surya Namaskar, the sun is going to shine little brightly for you. Nothing. All impartial. They continue to bless us irrespective of what we do. And so the Gita also says that if you are enjoying something without acknowledging or claiming credit, then you are a stena, you are a thief. Okay, so minimum acknowledge and optimally do your karma. So then towards the end of the Gita, very profound verse, which is a great guide for us in terms of how to live our life. Yataf pravrittir bhutanam yena sarvamidam tatam swakarmana tamabhyarcha siddhim vindati manavaha. So 18th chapter. Yataha pravritti bhutanam, all these beings, the one from whom this creation, this pravritti has come about. And did I run away after creating? So somebody else, you please do babysitting, I cannot handle this jagat. No. Yena sarvamidam tatam. This entire jagat, all beings, all of it is pervaded by me. So the one for whom this manifestation is recognized to be pervaded by Bhagavan, what shall the person do? Swakarmana tam abhyarcha, the one who worships by what? By swakarma. What is my karma? Okay, because I am in this age and stage of life, and so every age and stage of life has different duties, different responsibilities, different phases, whatever it is. Swakarmana tam abhyarcha, I worship with my karma, and the one who does that, siddhim vindati manavaha, the person gains antakarna shuddhi and gains siddhi. Siddhi is an accomplishment, but gains all that is to be gained. Okay, so this is brilliant. But how do I know what is my swakarma? What is my swadharma? Then I will ask you, what is the change you want to create in this world? It's a very simple question, but it's going to take you a few days to answer it. Okay, if you want to take me up on this will be very nice. So you articulate that, and while you're articulating it, can you bring kaushalam and samatvam in all the roles of your life? It's not easy, okay, because to understand, because the dharma is dynamic, to to understand what I need to do. Should I continue in this relation? Should I walk away? Should I discipline my child more? Or should I give the child freedom? Should I look at Facebook? Facebook, why? Because my work is so boring. So I pretend that I'm working, but I'm not actually. I'm using company time to, follow social media. So like that, this is usual activities during the day and conflicts about what to do. But if you see what the dharma of the given situation is and you bring all of you to it, then there is Kaushalam there, because there is life competence, that you have grown so much that your response in the form of Kaushalam to Karma Yoga is an offering to Bhagwan. And of course, you're not going to offer anything rotten. It will be your best contribution. But during lockdown, there is no maid, so toilets have to be cleaned and dishes have to be washed. Yes, that is your part of your Swakarma. No, but that is not spiritual activity. I love watching satsang and I will watch Bhagavad Gita class. Well, but what is Bhagavad Gita saying? Is not saying only spirituality means listening to me, Bhagwan. What is your Swakarma? That is your contribution to me. But I don't feel like doing it. It doesn't matter. You can grow into feeling like it. Because the thing about a role is that very often we grow into a role. We don't know what is involved. Okay, even if you have been dating someone for, let's say, a year, then you marry the person. What does it mean to be a husband and wife? Okay, nobody knows, really speaking. You have observed some people, you have read some books, and then both of them are strong personalities. So how you navigate this terrain? There is, of course, there's a lot of love, but there may not be enough teamwork, right? And that's what Brahma Vidanandi says, that all the love will get lost in the pots and the pans. But you didn't do this, but you are like this, but what if your family taught you, etc., etc. So then, with this love and teamwork that is there, you do perform your dharma. But I don't know what it is. No, of course you know what it is. You don't want to do it, that's another story. You try to bring Kaushalam into the role and learn to accept that this person has a background. And a lot of people will say, oh, I never knew that the person was like this when I married. If I had known, I would have not married only. It's reality, okay? So now, because of your karma, you have got this prasada, okay, in this form of this person, and therefore what do? You offer your contribution. But that person doesn't do anything. Why should I always contribute? Because there is karma to be done. It is a part of your Swadharma. Oh, so Bhagavad Gita will teach me how I will teach Swadharma to people. No, it always starts with you. What is your dharma? We don't do dharma, but we do karma. And we do dharma, but you can't do dharma without doing karma. So when you see your entire life and the different roles to be played, also in the context of your relation with Bhuta, Manushyaha, Devata, Pitra, Rishi, all of them, then you are very accomplished person, because you are contributing and you are also seeing the laws and principles that make things as they are, and all the laws and principles are pervaded by Bhagavan. And then he further says, which is the last verse of the teaching, Sarva Dharman Parityajya Mamekam Sharanam Vraja Aham Tva Sarva Papebhyaha Moksha ishyami ma shuchaha. So ma shuchaha, do not grieve. You remember Ashochananva Shotaspam, where he had said that there is no reason to grieve, you have no legitimate reason. And then finally in the 18th chapter he says don't grieve. Okay, ma shuchaha. Why what is the last teaching? Jate jate kya keh ja rahe hain? Okay, sarva dharman parityajya, that you give up all your karma. What? My God, Bhagwan Krishna is so contradictory. First he is saying you live a life of dharma and karma and all. Sarva dharman parityajya, yes. What does that mean? It means that you see that you were never the karta. In other words, in your recognition of the Atma as a karta, as a bhokta, you are free. Mamekam sharanam vraja, and you surrender to me alone. Ahantva sarva papebhyaha, I will liberate you from all papa. And that moksha ishyami. So I will liberate you in the sense that it is not Bhagwan is giving moksha packets, okay? You are liberated, you are not, and so on. What is being said is, I have taught you all these chapters. I mean, of course, he didn't use those many words, but I have taught you. You had asked for Shreyas, you had asked me for what is your dharma. I have shared that teaching, and that teaching has been coming down to us, Vivasvan onwards. So you are not the karta and you are not the bhokta. So let me give you a glimpse of this, okay? A lot of us are caught up with our many roles, especially because we experience a lot of conflict. So we have so much identification with the role that we do what is called emotional lumping. So, oh, my life is going to be devastated. Why? No, because my son said, who are you to ask me questions? Okay, so your son is a teenager, no? He will express his anger, it's okay. No, my life is gone. So much I did for this person, but look at him, so ungrateful, and he just treats the house like a hostel and so on. Okay, how is your relationship with your husband? That is good. I'm so happy to have a supportive husband. How about your in-laws? In-laws also nice. It's all good. And then your work? Yeah, I'm quite lucky to have a job like the job that I have. It's very nice. It's very fulfilling. Then how can you say your life is going to be devastated? It's only with respect to one role that you're feeling like this, but the identification is so much, because the fulfillment as a bhokta experiencer is also so deep. So I could continue to relate to all these relations, but I have to be able to see that I am independent of karma. I, as the Atma, no punya, no papa can touch me. So here, glimpse I'm giving, okay? Let's say your mother is on your right, okay? So you say Amma, something you say, and then your son is on your left. And in this family gathering, you are talking to different people, lot of people have been invited, and you are not confused at all. Why? Because to every person you relate accordingly. So you say Amma something or Mama, whatever. And then you talk to your son, okay, can you get this? The guests need this, okay. And then you meet a friend, oh, hello, how are you? I'm fine, etc. You talk to them. So what is happening is, although you are relating to everyone, when you relate to your mother, it's a role, right? So you're a daughter or a son. Then when you relate to your son, you have dropped the fact that you are a son or a daughter. Yeah? So, but how did this happen? It happens almost instantaneously. It happens very effortlessly. You don't need some great Vedanta for this. Okay, but it's a very deeply insightful moment that I am picking up and dropping different roles at different points in time, which means that I am much more than the role. I am that independent person which is filling up the different roles. The roles depend on me, but I am independent of all of them. And definitely in deep sleep at night, all roles collapse. I am not mother to anyone, I have gone to sleep. I am not son to anyone, I have gone to sleep. Okay, so there are hours and hours where we are not our roles. So surely we are more than the roles. And this conscious being, that is the Atma, is not the Karta. The Atma, I, as though has a body which happens to have the status of dependent reality, but I, Atma, am ever free of the body. So we saw that yesterday. The Atma is invariable, body is also variable. Okay, of course childhood, youth, old age, so definitely variable, experiences are variable, but I am invariable. And in seeing that I am the one that always is, and I am so free that I can afford to perform any kind of karma. See, earlier, I don't know about you, but definitely when I was when I was younger and more foolish, I used to think, oh, freedom is doing what I want, when I want, how I want. No, that's not freedom. That is called being a slave to one's raga and dvesha. True freedom, at least according to Bhagavad Gita, is the freedom or sita prajna, okay, another word that is used for someone who is rooted in this wisdom of the Atma, that this Tvam, this individual, is actually Tat Bhagavan, and I am free enough to have a body. I am free enough to have emotions, and I can watch the play of all emotions. I am free enough to have any and every experience. I am free enough to relate to everyone, because everyone is really me. When I say everyone, it is in different forms, okay? But the content, or what is the adhishthanam, the locus of each and every form, is indeed Isha. Isha Vasyam Sarvamidam. All that is here is Ishvara, and that Ishvara I am. So in seeing the glory of Bhagavan Krishna, in understanding his teachings, Ishvara Darshanam is Atma Darshanam. That every time I see Ishvara, every time I see a form, I am relating to a manifestation of Ishvara, because what he has said in Yataf Pravritti Bhutanam Yena Sarvam Idam Tatam, he is referring to both the material cause, that is what we touch, feel and so on, and the intelligent cause, and both happen to be the same. Okay, it's true that all religions will they do agree on the fact that God is almighty and intelligent and so on and so forth, so everyone will more or less agree with that. But where people don't agree is that this material world is sacred because it is pervaded by Bhagavan, and so the material cause is also Bhagavan, intelligent cause is Bhagavan. So it's unitary cause, okay, single unitary cause of both. In seeing that I am Ishvaraha Sarvadharmam Parityajya, that I no longer hold on to the identity of being this sorrowful warrior who has to fight against my people. Because now I see clearly that yes, they are my people, but they are on the side of adharma, and I am free enough to fight for dharma. Okay, that victory or defeat, now it no longer matters, because I am doing my swakarma and it is my offering to Bhagavan. If we live with this kind of a disposition, if this society, if Sanatana Dharma is revived in a big way, then we're unstoppable. This is the glory of the Bhagavad Gita, and we've just sort of scratched the surface. So then, in response to all this teaching, what do you think Arjuna will say? And he does say, Nashto moha spritir labdha tvat prasadam mayam achyutaha. So my delusion is gone, and I have, thanks to you, all my doubts have also gone. Gata sandehaha karishye. So tava vachanam aham karishye. Whatever you say, I will do. And interestingly, Bhagavan Krishna has told him, Yatha ikchasi tatha kuru. Whatever you want to do, you do, after all this teaching. But he's confident that, this is the confidence of a teacher, that, my student will do the right thing. I don't even have to tell what is to be done, because the teaching is so deep. And, when you stay with the teaching, when you apply it to your life, when you see your life in the light of this glorious teaching, then life is such a celebration. Okay, so we close with the last shloka. Yatra Yogeshwara Krishna, Yatra Partho Dhanurdharaha, Tatra Shrir Vijayo Bhutihi, Dhruva Nitir Matir Mama. So the last shloka of the 18th chapter, which says, of course this is what Sanjaya, Vedavyasa is saying, that wherever there is Krishna, who is the Lord of Yoga, wherever there is Arjuna, the one who bears the bow or bow, there is wealth, there is victory, there is justice. So we need not say, oh, Arjuna, okay, wherever Arjuna, but my name is not Arjuna. Okay, no, what is being said is that this dialogue, although it is between Bhagavan Krishna and Arjuna, it is a dialogue between the Jiva and Ishvara. We have to see this. And the teachings that have come from an avatara like Krishna, they are for me. And I am that Arjuna. And if I fully assimilate the teaching such that there is no difference between what has been taught and the teaching, then I am there and I have truly honored the teachings of Bhagwan. So Janmashtami is coming up. Of course, we will do puja, but if you really want to honor, respect, show your love for Bhagavan Krishna, then it is time that you make a commitment that I will understand what you say. I'm not just going to stuff a laddu in your mouth, which is a nice way to shut up Bhagavan Krishna, okay? I will understand what you say. Because Bhagavan Krishna says that jnani is me. Amongst all the 4 types of bhaktas, the one who runs to me only when in trouble, artaha, or the one who is artharthi, who keeps me informed of all that is happening, and of course prays to me for whatever the person wants. Then third, jignasu, one who wants to know me, and then of course jnani, who is me. The jnani is priyaha for me. Why? Oh, Bhagwan is also partial? No, Bhagwan is not partial. But Bhagwan is saying that there is no difference. Actually, there is no difference anyway between me and all these other types of bhaktas, but they are the ones who are holding on to their separate identity and so on and so forth. But the jnani has been open to the teaching and has applied it in his or her life. So with that we'll close. Om Tat Sat, Shri Krishna Arpanamastu. Okay. So if there are any questions, I will take them.
Manoj, 2 questions are there.
Okay. Okay, let me see. As we grow older, the pursuit of artha starts becoming less important, and thus automatically the life that revolved around work and earning money starts becoming less important. Yes, that's true. At this juncture in life, a different focus for life is sought, often labeled as midlife crisis. Can a study of Bhagavad Gita help one get clarity on what should a new pursuit of life be and how? Yes, of course, it will help you gain clarity, but I would suggest if it is if you're not keen about the Bhagavad Gita, I would suggest you go to a life coach. Okay, and what you're calling midlife crisis is actually you getting in touch with the human condition, that after all this, been there, done that, my journeys are complete, I don't really need all this to be happy. Like, it's nice, it buys me comfort, but I am seeking completeness. If you get in touch with this human situation of yours, then the Bhagavad Gita will totally transform your life, and it will give you clarity. When I spoke about the different types of karma and how we are related to these different sets of relations, that is the pursuit of life. Life is not sitting in a cave, in the thick of the battlefield, the most inappropriate, one would think, place for such profound teaching. That's where that is the pursuit of my life. And of course, the Vedic vision is very clear that this is a spiritual journey. Okay, it is very good that you have already seen the limitation of artha. Artha is important, kama is important. It will give you certain things, it will not give you moksha. That clarity, if one has, then you can devote your time to understanding who you really are. Because this new pursuit of life, what you will find fulfilling is a life of contribution, which you will do with the attitude of karma yoga, but that will not be enough. Why? Because you will still think that, okay, I am still subject to punya and papa, I am still karta, and I am still bhokta. Why? Because I am facing all this papa of my previous lifetime or this lifetime. So therefore, what is the truth of me? And we have very systematic teachings that will help you see that you are indeed that Bhagavan. So dharma will continue to be the framework of your life. Earlier you did things for the sake of fullness. Now you do things out of fullness. So definitely seek to study with a teacher. Okay. Then second question, like you said, dharma happens via karma, and my dharma being a grahastha is bound by roles. Yes, unless I fulfill my duties as per roles, I will be dissatisfied. How to move ahead when my dissatisfaction comes from the very fact that I was not able to perform dharma? Very good question. As the karta, the doer, we are plagued by guilt. And even in Taittiriya Upanishad it is aham sadhuna karavam aham papam akaram iti. Why did I do this papa? Why did I not do the right thing? Okay, so guilt about not doing one's dharma is mitigated in two ways. One, guilt and any emotion. Okay, the entire psychological order is pervaded by Bhagavan. Okay, so guilt is also a form of Bhagavan's blessing. So we see that it's a part of psychological order, and I do not need to reject guilt. Okay. Second way is, if I have not been able to perform my dharma, I still have all the Shaktis, I make amends. If there is papa involved, then I do some kind of prayaschitta, I atone for that. Or if I have not been able to perform my dharma, then I try to perform it, that's it. There's no some great mantra or tantra for this that is required. So just the plodding of my daily schedule and performing the dharma in that situation. If I'm not sure, then I need to ask that person, what can I do to make you comfortable? This is of course provided the person is not a manipulative person. Maybe the person is hurt because I was not able to do certain things, or I didn't have what was required at that time, and so you apologize. Okay, but your commitment to the happiness and growth of that person, maybe your wife or maybe your children, is very important, and that commitment will make you do lot of things for their sake. That is a part of dharma. So don't beat yourself up too much. Okay, we tend to do this, but 6th chapter Bhagavad Gita says also, Uddhared atmanatmanam natmanam avasadayet. That may you look at yourself as a friend, not as an enemy. So we tend to be very critical of ourselves. We tend to look down on some of the things we have done, not done, and then it creates problems. Okay, but you have to see that you are pervaded by Bhagwan. Your understanding of dharma is pervaded by Bhagwan. All the processes, your physiological, psychological, physical, everything, all of you are Devalaya. Okay, Deho Devalaya Proktaha. And who is the deity? The deity is in your heart. So you are a manifestation of Bhagwan from the relative standpoint, I'm saying, and therefore do what you can, but don't keep on reacting to a reaction. Okay, you couldn't do something, okay, no problem, next time make the effort. But if you react to a reaction, then it is endless. The emotional build-up is endless. Oh, I should not have got angry. It is not good to get angry. But Bhagwan said, He's taught us things. I will bring it into my life. But what we do is, no, that means I'm a bad person. That means I'm not like this. That means I have not understood. This extra self-judgment that we are heaping on us, Bhagwan is saying, please don't do that. You have to have Atma Kripa. Bless yourself by being kind to yourself, supportive to yourself, but also have the discipline to do the right thing and don't run away from your karma. Okay? Then third question, animals do not have karma and karma phala. Do they have desires? Do they have Ichha Shakti, Jnana Shakti, Kriya Shakti? They do have, I suppose, as they do, they are nature bound, they act, but that is not karma, as it is not choice based. Okay, that's correct understanding. An animal's sharira is a bhoga sharira. Bhoga sharira meaning the person cannot generate fresh punya or papa because this form the person has got to just exhaust karma. So they are programmed, okay, they are programmed in the kind of food that they will go towards and a lot of their behavior. But we must understand that there is a jiva there. Some jiva because of which a lot of papa in that person's life fructified for this short time, and that person got this animal form. So I'm not sure if we will ever know what goes on in an animal's mind. Okay, so a lot of research is is being done. So yes, they do have all these 3 Shaktis I spoke about. It's limited, but they cannot generate fresh karma. Okay. Any other questions? Okay.
There's one more question.
Okay, fantastic, lovely question. How does one overcome the overwhelming fear of missing out tendency? Brilliant question. FOMO, है ना? Oh my God, so many Bhagavad Gita classes happening, Vedanta classes, I'm going to watch everything. No, please don't do that. See, fear of missing out tendency, although it's called FOMO and the youth talk about it, everyone has this fear. And we have this fear because our priorities are not clear. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about the connection between our priorities and desires. So here, suppose I have a moksha commitment, right? Then what is the right way to approach it? You find a guru, find someone you resonate with, and definitely not a dead guru, okay? Definitely a person who you can relate to and clarify your questions, because one can delude oneself. Now, that is what is required for the moksha pursuit, okay? Sampradaya, okay? This is the teaching tradition. But then I am getting all these updates and notifications. This is also there, that is also there. Then it's endless. I am stressed out in my moksha pursuit. So that's not desirable. So therefore, we have to divide, this media, okay, into I have to know, it's necessary to know, vis-a-vis nice to know, vis-a-vis it doesn't matter if I know or I don't. Okay. So then when I put things into that category, then it's okay that I am anyway pursuing moksha. I am studying the Shastra, I am seeing it in my life and so on. Yes, it's tempting to do this, but if I only do this, then I am not available to my family or friends or work, because even at work, secretly I am watching Advaita Academy videos, okay? So, there is a time and place for everything. So here, I may have 10,000 desires, but all of that can be distilled to one priority. And that's what I need to distill. Because this fear of missing out is because, the whole world is a playground. There is so much available for everything. So how does one discipline oneself? And, the smartphone has made a lot of us really dumb, because we expect to be taken care of. But here is where we exert our kaushalam, our agency, and see what is my priority. What priority meaning? The need behind the need. There are so many ways to exercise. You can do yoga, you can do Zumba, you can dance, and you can do weight training. I want to do everything. No. What is your goal? If it's fitness for your daily activities, if it is strength, it's flexibility, endurance, you do what is appropriate. Stick to 1 or 2 max, no more. Okay? And see, because the beauty is, and this is something we have to get used to, once you have taken a decision, once you have said yes to something, you have said no to everything else, correct? And therefore this fear of missing out will be there. But you say that, I have taken this decision,